A fluid situation in the Middle East continues. Qatar officials saying that the Israel-Hamas truce has been extended now for 2 days, saying, quote, as part of the ongoing mediation, an agreement has been reached to extend the humanitarian truce for an additional 2 days in the Gaza Strip. This would allow for the potential release of more hostages as well. Joining us now, Harley Lippman. He is on the executive committee of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee and the International Advisory Council of the Brookings Institute. Thank you for your time. You say Israel, damned if they do, damned if they don't. We've got a 2-day extension of the ceasefire now. What are your concerns for Israel?
It is damned if they do and damned if they don't, because on the humanitarian level, clearly this is a source of enormous joy and relief for the families of the hostages. And on a human level, you can't but help be happy that they're being reunited. But once again, we see the evil of Hamas, that they release a 6-year-old without the mother, a 9-year-old without the mother. This is cruelty, and this was not in accordance to what was agreed to. But the biggest concern here is what's going to happen the day after, which is once these truce ends, Hamas is going to be so much better armed. And the amazing thing is they've asked Hamas many times, are you going to stop these cross-border terror attacks? And each time Hamas has said, no, we've done them 7 times. We're going to do it 8, 9, 10, and 11. That's a quote. So they're going to continue to try to kill Israelis, innocent civilians. And what we learned is that there were religious authorities emphasizing the importance of inflicting the most pain possible, that when you kill these Israelis, torture them in the most painful way you could think of. I mean, I just find this so extraordinary that to hear this, I mean, I don't think anybody since the Holocaust ever thought that we would be witnessing and seeing these things as we're experiencing it now. Everybody's still really traumatized and in shock.
Right, and will be, some of these people, for the rest of their lives. As you mentioned, Hamas will rearm. It will be ready for once this truce expires. How do you expect the IDF to be preparing for that militarily and strategically speaking?
Well, this is what they've been training for now, and they're aware of this, but at the same time, the consequences are that they're going to incur much more casualties. It's extraordinary for an army to agree to something like this, knowing that it's going to leave them reeling when they resume their military activities, because Hamas is going to plan all kinds of booby traps, attacks, surprise attacks on Israel and on the forces in Gaza. And Israel's going to take much higher casualties. So that's a tough thing when you're commanding soldiers and you are agreeing to a temporary truce anyway, knowing that you're going to have so much more of your men killed and wounded. It's really it's the most vexing issue that Israel's probably ever faced since their existence in 1948.
My last guest had some reservations and concerns about U.S. involvement in this situation. How much did U.S. pressure play into the current ceasefire, do you believe?
A lot. The Biden administration has put all their weight into trying to get a ceasefire. They were under enormous pressure from people in the United States, from world leaders, especially Arab leaders, to stop this. And again, it is incredibly tragic that innocent Palestinians are dying, but Hamas is making this responsible. Not one Palestinian child would be dead if Hamas, which is made up of all Palestinians, didn't burst across the border with thousands of people to rape, torture, and murder. And again, if this was any other nation, just apply these facts and see what that nation would do. And that's where asking for a ceasefire and being so much against Israel is a form of anti-Semitism, because no other nation is held to the same standard.
We heard the Prime Minister in his surprise visit to Gaza lay out Israel's goals, and one of those was the complete elimination of Hamas. But that is difficult, given the fact that many of its leadership are not living in Gaza, they're elsewhere. How do you expect the IDF strategy and the U.S.'s role and participation in negotiations to combat that part of this issue?
Yeah, you're onto something. Yeah, I wish Bibi Netanyahu never said that, because he set such an extremely high standard that may be somewhat unrealistic. I don't know if they're going to be able to eradicate all of Hamas. One solution could be what happened in Lebanon in 1982, where Israel went to push the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, out of Lebanon and got them to Tunis. So one more practical solution could be perhaps you send out the top 2,000 leaders of Hamas to some other location, maybe Turkey or Qatar, and you come in and you try to bring in some responsible leadership. You know, the good news is you don't need to have someone who is pro-Israel or even likes Israel. You just need to have someone who's honest, because Hamas leaders are corrupt, and someone who just wants to uplift the life of the Palestinians. And then you can enter into political discussions about whatever may evolve out of that, a state or something else. But I do think it's an opportunity to kind of clear the slate and move forward with some type of peace process. But lastly, the biggest concern is the same way that Israel can no longer live with Hamas on its border because it makes the country of Israel unsafe, Israel can no longer live with Hezbollah on its border. So it's only a question of if, not when. I'm sorry, it's only a question of when, not if, that Israel is going to have to encounter Hezbollah and take them out, because people in Israel are afraid that thousands of Hamas fighters could descend across the border at any time, as they're traumatized and they talk about it and worry about it. So this is not going to end soon, even though in Gaza it may be over sooner than we think. This war is going to expand.
Right. Israel fighting on multiple fronts. Harley, Lippman, thank you for your time.
Thank you.